Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to WR PC Tier 2 for finale day. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the final round of the season. And Josh, who is of course alongside me in the commentary box this season, a familiar face returning once again. We should have a bit of carnage. We are here at Saudi Arabia for the final round. The mystery draw got revealed only a few moments ago, so it should be a rather interesting race.
Yeah, it's always a bit of carnage when you head to the Corniche. I'm really looking forward to this one. It is the track that I think a lot of people wanted. Maybe not some of the drivers, but a lot of the people who are going to be watching this one, they want a bit of chaos here in the final round. The championship's already wrapped up, so let's have some fun.
Yes, of course. As we found out last week, it has been confirmed here this evening as well, is that Luca Rapassa will be your champion no matter what happens tonight. Dowd's once again not in attendance, and unfortunately that means for the Scot, after what was a very strong start to the season and a great start to the title campaign, he unfortunately sees it fall short thanks to two absences. And for Luca Rapassa, Josh, it's now a story of what does he do now? Does he go for a last to first? Does he just try and dominate this evening? What's his game plan? Of course, Saudi Arabia, a circuit that can, of course, promote a lot of overtaking. It's quite easy to overtake around here for a street track, should I say. And for Rapassa, a last to first could still be possible, even a last to wherever. Overtaking isn't too difficult.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it before. It could be something he thinks about, but of course, not wanting to get caught up in all the chaos that's going to be happening in the midfield, I think is a big factor for him. And the form that he's been on in the second half of the season, it wouldn't surprise me if he just tries to go out there and dominate it.
Yes, exactly. Indeed, of course, taking 4 of the last 5 race victories, has been on absolute fine form. Has finished no lower than second in those 5 races as well, and is currently on a 3-race win streak. He is looking to round off this season in style. And of course, for Cameron Dowds as well, it's commiserations for him. Of course, 2 absences that aren't his fault, Josh. And as well, with that start to the season, once we got to Spain where that DNF happened, it all just started to slowly crumble around him. And for Luca Rapassa, was just able to capitalise when he needed to the most.
Yeah, and that's the most crucial thing. He was so consistent from that point forward. Final 6 races, if he were to win, it would be 5 races, five race wins in 6 races, which would be an incredible stat considering that is half of the season he would have won. So yeah, I think definitely a deserving champion here, and ultimately the driver who was able to pick up the best form.
Yeah, certainly was indeed. And of course, for Luca, now a 2-time WRPC Tier 2 champion. Of course, won in seasons past as well. And returned here at that Mexico race where he could have won that as well on his return. But unfortunately, in that one. He got hit by teammate Leo Lund. But before we head trackside, let's look at the standings, because there are still some closely fought battles further back in the pack. So as we know, it's Luca Rapassa on that top spot, 140 points. He is 21 points clear of Cameron Dowds in second, who is on 119. Then it's the Rero in third, alongside Dennis Langrock. That battle for third in the standings will come down to this final race. Only a total of 5 points separate Rero and Langrock. Then it's Holmes in fifth. He's in front of Hietala by 10 points, so that could still go down to the very end. Shontos, who's only participated in, I think, 3 rounds this season, still in that top 7. He's on 43 points. And it's Tamas Kokeni, Jensen Rausen, who's been able to make his way up into that top 9. And Aaron Raminguez rounds out that order. So for Shontos, he could still potentially drop out of the top 10, but it shows how strong of a start of the season he had in those opening 3 races. Of course, Josh, that the fact he's not been here for the remainder of the season, he's still in that top 7.
Yeah, I mean, very much a thought of what could have been had he done the entire season. Could he have potentially been challenging for that title? Maybe. But yeah, ultimately we'll never know. He wasn't able to participate in the entire season, and as a result, now, yeah, not really anywhere near contention at all.
No, certainly is not indeed. But drivers are now out on the road. We can head trackside and bring you all the action from this final round of the season. And it's Lucas Baisner who will be heading around the circuit first. Tamas Kokeni, and I think it might have also been Aaron Raminguez, potentially with qualifying bans. I'll quickly just double check for you here this evening. It's Tony Hietala, sorry, who also has the qualifying ban. So for Tamas and Tony, they're also trying a last to first in a sense, but for Lucas Baisner, this is going to be the benchmark. Of course, a circuit that requires a lot of confidence here in qualifying, especially, Josh. So these first runs might be completely off the pace by the time we get to the final laps.
Yeah, Lucas currently on our timing screen. First fastest, obviously that's not based on any pace, but he'll be hoping to stay there come the end of the session, making his way in towards turn 1. You want to try and use all of the curb available to you, try and cut the corner as tight as you can. Set up the exit nicely and heading into a really tricky corner. Got the wall on the inside here. Got to be careful to avoid that while trying to carry as much speed as possible. And you're pretty much flat out all the way towards the end of Sector 1 here now. Carrying as much speed as you possibly can. Maybe a small lift as you make your way through this very tight, twisty bit. And now flat out towards the end of the first sector. It's a 31.5 for Lucas Baisner. Decent start to the lap in towards turn 13. Now banked left-hander. Try and stay tight. Carry the speed on the exit as well. And now only 3 more braking zones left to go before the end of the lap. Hit the brakes into the chicane of 15 and 16. A little bit wide there as he made his way through the corner, but gets it rotated in quite nicely. And now down towards 22 and 23. Got to carry so much speed through here. Got to have so much confidence getting onto the throttle. Gets it flicked in quite nicely. A little bit wide, and it's an invalidation for the Haas driver. So unfortunately not going to be a time set here on the first run.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate there for Lucas Baisner. Tapped the wall at 15 as well. That also gave him a slight error. And unfortunately for him, that is going to be his first lap over and done with. We're not going to do his confidence any good. Now on board of Alejandro Herrero. He taps the wall on the inside of 22. And unfortunately, he now picks up an invalidation. We still have potentially Oliver Knott coming up to the line. That was Joe Murphy, who's just set the fastest time at 25.6. It's the benchmark. Raminguez into second. Oliver Knott now makes his way to the line. What's this going to be for him? He just pips Murphy to that top spot, waiting for the 2 McLaren drivers to come to the line. One of them being, of course, champion-elect Luca Rapassa across the line, a 25.4 from him. What about teammate Jensen Rausen across the line? Only a 25.7. But for the Dutchman Rapassa, the championship leader and also the champion of the season, exactly how he would want to start this session off so far. 2 temps clear. Santana goes into 6th. Teammate Quintino just is starting a attempt. Now Gio is making his way through the final section as well as one of the Mercedes drivers came up to the line there. That was Tom 97 going into 9th place. So for Gio, as he makes his way up into the final corner, let's see what the Frenchman can do as he goes really late on the brakes into turn 27.
Yeah, you can just go so late there, try it, and basically sort it out once you get to the apex, because it's not that long of a run towards the line. It's a 26.7, 10th fastest at the moment, the slowest time we've seen so far, but still plenty of drivers yet to set times, plenty with invalidations, and also still plenty of time to improve as well. I've got Williams and Scott Holmes, who goes into 11th fastest at 26.8 for him. And I think that is pretty much everybody done with their laps. I think Gabriel Quintino might still be out there on a lap coming towards the end of Sector 2.
Yeah, he certainly is. Quintino 59.3 in that middle sector, now making his way through the end of the lap. Of course, 24, 25 and 26, they're all down this straight. It's all flat out all the way up into that final corner. See what the Aston Martin has in store. We'll have, I think that's Oliver Knott potentially just in his way ever so slightly. Gets out the way though, does the Williams driver. And for Quintino up to the line, what's it going to be for the Aston Martin? It's good enough for 8th fastest, into the top 8 at 26.1. But of course, I have heard here as well, Josh, is that some of the drivers were taking a lucky guess earlier on today and practicing some of the circuits, and one that they particularly landed on quite a lot was the Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit here this evening. So a few of these drivers are already in the know-how, already in the loop of the track, and know exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, I'm just quickly double-checking something else as well, which might also play in for these drivers. Yes, in a couple of days' time, in a league that we won't mention the name of, there is also a race at Jeddah, so a lot of these drivers will have already been practicing Jeddah for said race, in which case I think quite a lot of these drivers are going to be coming in with a lot of preparation.
That is very true, actually. I did not think of that one either. Of course, yeah, that is going to be another season finale in that league, and for these drivers, they're already getting preparations underway for that one. Might have already been starting to do a few sessions over the weekend, and heading into today, this is where preparations really start to kick in, and thinking as well, ooh, potentially it could be in this calendar for WR here this evening that it could potentially be the one on the cards. So they focus a little bit more on it, and good thing for them, they have even better preparation. And for this event, for what has been actually I think the first time this season, we'll have a clash with another league and have a majority of the drivers here, Josh, having that know-how, having that idea of how the circuit flows and the setup they like, and it gives them the perfect opportunity now to really show the best pace they have all season. Yeah,
unfortunately though for Lucas Bleisner, it's a second invalidation at turn 22. Things really not going his way so far in this session. He comes across the line, it was a 25.7, which would have put him up into P5, I believe, 1,000th behind Ramirez. But yeah, unfortunately for him, hasn't really been able to get this session underway the way he would have liked.
No, certainly has not indeed. Loureiro making his way through the final sector. He was one of the victims of the invalidations, but he was made it through cleanly on this attempt. For Alejandro Loureiro, who's taken back-to-back pole positions so far this season, he goes into second fastest. Nicely done by the Red Bull driver, and he is one certainly to look out for in this qualifying format. Marcel Pabst has unfortunately invalidated his lap. Tom Roberts has just started an attempt in his Scuderia Ferrari as he now prances his way on the exit of the first sector, a 31.5 for him. Of course, currently Bleisner, Pabst, SD Roberts and Elia Tomasetto yet to set lap times. Of course, Tony Hietala, he is a qualifying bad, so he'll stay in the pit lane for the entire session. But for Tom Roberts here, Josh, it seems to be a very tidy end to the first and start to the middle sector. So let's see what he can do with only a quarter of the lap to go.
Yeah, about a tenth of a second off of the purple time in Sector 1, but matching a lot of drivers, 59.2 in the middle sector. That is very wide, though, and that is going to be an invalidation, unfortunately, for Tom Roberts. Won't be able to play things out. He was only a couple hundredths off of the purple middle sector, so was on for a very decent lap there, but in the end, things just not working out in regards to the track limit, and he will have to abandon it back to the pit lane.
Yeah, Joe Murphy also not having the greatest of laps, having to come back into the pits. Ramirez is up by a tenth of a second in the middle sector, so we'll see what he could be able to do this lap. If he does improve by a 10th, we'll put him in front of Joe Murphy and just behind Oliver Knott, who of course lies third fastest. It's a little slide out of turn 27 for Ramirez as he makes his way up to the line with the DRS open. What's it going to be for the Alpine? It's fourth fastest. He did improve by that 10th of a second, and only by a few thousandths of a second, 3 thousandths of a second, fall short of Oliver Knott's lap time. Rapassa was improving by a 10th, but he has also had an invalidation. Teammate Jensen Ralston is pushing on in this one too. He's got the DRS open, heading down into turn 27. So what can the McLaren driver do? Can he rival his teammates lap for pole position, or will he just fall short? Of course, currently for Rapassa, he's got about a 10th and a half to the good over second place man Alejandro Loureiro. Here comes Jensen Ralston across the line. He slices that gap down even further, but still Rapassa with about half a 10th in it over his teammate Ralston, who goes second fastest, and in his battle for potentially 6th place in the standings, that will do him a world of good.
Yeah, Rapassa definitely seems to be the driver in the best form, though, as we've seen throughout this season. He always seems to be right up at the sharp end of the field. A 10th of a second up, and with time to find as well in the lap, I'd expect it was once again a turn 22 invalidation, costing another driver their lap here. But yeah, I very much expect we could be seeing Rapassa pushing potentially into the .2s if he can get a really good lap together here.
Yeah, he certainly could indeed. It'd be interesting to note what is going to happen now throughout the remainder of this session. Of course, as we know, that turn 22, you're entering at such high speeds that if you just turn in a little bit too late, you can pick up a invalidation by understeering wide. Oliver Knott now goes to third fastest, displacing Alejandro Loureiro by 22 thousandths of a second. A minimal improvement, but enough for a start in the top 3 so far for Knott. Who else is currently on a lap? A lot of drivers did just finish attempts. Dennis Langrock is up by 2/10 of a second. He's not fallen victim so far of the turn 22 invalidation. And now as he exits out of that final corner, DRS open for Langrock, was up by just over a 10th and a half. Across the line he goes. It's 5th fastest, 2.5 tenths found, and just shy of Alejandro Loureiro's lap time. In that third place downwards here, of course, Josh, it is ridiculously close, especially all the way down to Joe Murphy in 7th. It's only a few hundredths of a second, whereas, of course, for Rapassa and Ralston, the two McLarens, they've got quite a healthy bit of breathing space over the rest of the field.
Yeah, it is very, very close, and that is something you see at the track with so few braking zones. After the end of Sector 1, there's only 4 braking zones until the end of the lap, so there's quite a few places where you can actually gain the time. It's quite similar to Austria in a sense where you just don't have that many braking zones at all on the lap. Yeah, there's only 6 braking zones at this track, and as such, you struggle to find places to find the time. You've really got to make it count in the places you do, and naturally you get these really small gaps. A couple more cars as well, I think, coming towards the end of their laps. I'm not sure if anybody is actually improving on their times. It doesn't seem so, but yeah, we've got 5 minutes of qualifying left to go. As it stands, our champion currently on pole position.
Yeah, Luca Rapassa will make it a brilliant end to the season with taking pole position, and if he could take the race win, of course, make it 4 in a row. And now for Lucas Baser as Murphy goes to the top of the time. So for the Dutchman, he's got a rival at the top of the field. Here comes Baser. He goes 8th fastest on the 25.7. Wasn't able to really find too much time on what he did on the previous attempts. Of course, he has invalidated both times, but did come across the line on that second attempt. Marcel Pabst is pushing on as Joe Murphy has hit the front of the field, but not by much, as Luca Rapassa himself is on a lap. He's a little bit further around than Marcel Pabst, and of course Rapassa up by 10 and a half, but hits the wall at turn 22, and once again the champion falls victim at that very corner. It's just, they turn in that little bit too early, trying to carry as much speed as possible here, Josh, and they just clip that inside wall by the barest of margins, but it's enough to send them across the road and off the track. And unfortunately for Luca Rapassa, that's the second time he's done that now.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate to see Pabst was coming towards the line, but he's coming into the pits, so doesn't think he's going to improve on that time, or thinks maybe he can put an even better lap time together. Everybody else now making their way back to the pits, who are currently sat in the pits, except for I think maybe one car heading out, or is that just Pabst coming back in, I think? Yeah, it is. So yeah, as it stands, we're just waiting for that clock to tick down. The drivers want to be out right at the end of the session when the grip's at its best, looking to try and find the best possible time. Murphy currently 14 thousandths ahead of Rapasa, but Rapasa was a 10.5 up on his lap, so the time is definitely there for the McLaren driver. It's just whether he can execute it, and whether, most importantly, he can get turn 22 right.
Yeah, it certainly is indeed. It will boil down to this turn 22, I think, these final attempts when that pressure is on. Of course, you don't have the opportunity to go again. You just all about getting this final run on the board, and talking about potential battle for pole position, that is all down to 22. Jensen Rausen now out on to the circuit, our first driver that will get us underway on these final attempts. And of course, another place the drivers need to be more careful of, potentially in the race more than qualifying, is that curb between turns 8 and 9 here, Josh. If you run a little bit too far wide on the exit of 8, you can just glance onto that curb and it just drags you onto it. As Ivan Iskrig has unfortunately retired from the session, won't have enough time to come back out again, but it just drags you onto it. And that's many positions lost in the race. It's lap over in qualifying. It's just trying to find that right balance of throttle application and just overall steering into turn 8 to make sure you don't run that far wide, but be more detrimental in the race when dirty air's in effect. And it's a really easy mistake to do. We see a lot of drivers making that error, and all it is just by going even a millimetre too wide through the corner, and unfortunately that curb just, you act like a skateboard and just grind straight over it off the road.
Yeah, and then you've got the trouble of rejoining onto the track at such a high speed, basically a 90-degree angle. So yeah, it really does become double trouble, and something the drivers will be hoping to avoid during this race. Fortunately, probably can be a lot of tyre saving, which means some lift and coast through there maybe, which should help them out a little bit. But 1 minute 20 on the clock. We are getting our first final runs underway. Jensen Rausen going to be the first driver to finish a lap here. Everybody only going to get one opportunity. And trying to beat the 25.481 set by Joe Murphy.
Yep, Joe Murphy's time is the benchmark. He's got two very fast charging Papaya machines, certainly waiting just behind him to pick up the pieces, especially if the V-carb does not improve. And it is going to be Jensen Rausen who gets us underway first as he makes his way now to the end of the first sector. It seemed like a very committed, very tidy first part of the lap. Is he up or is he down? He's up by only 1/1000th of a second. So he's matched his previous lap in that first part of the lap. So as we make our way through turn 14, and now as we make our way into the 15 and 16 chicane, two more really difficult corners about to come up of turn 22 and 23. Nicely done on the exit of 16. And for Jensen, what we're going to be looking at in the middle sector, the Papaya machine pushing on as he now makes his way through the middle sector split. He's up by just under 1/10 of a second and makes it through turn 22 nicely, but potentially was just a little bit too far away from that inside apex, and that could have cost him dear as he now makes his way up into that final corner. Has he done enough to snatch things away from Joe Murphy, or is he just going to fall short thanks to a slight error through that dreaded turn 22? Up to the line then for Jensen Rausen. Is it enough to displace the V-carb across the line? No, misses out, and not by much. Rapasa up by 1/10.5 in the first sector. Joe Murphy is a little bit further round in this battle for pole, and he's up by 0.5 himself. Rapasa through the middle sector. Is he up or is he down? He's up by nearly 2/10 and makes it through turn 22. So for Murphy, he needs to pray for a miracle in the final sector because Rapasa is hard charging and he's looking like he's taking pole.
Lorero up to 4th fastest. Langrock to 3rd with a 5:02, 1,000th faster than Jensen Rosen. Joe Murphy coming up towards the line. Can he improve here? Comes across the line. 0.391 does find the improvement, extends his margin to the front. But Rapasa, can he snatch it away? Yes, he can. Finds the time. 3:36 is the time that Rapasa set, and he takes pole in this season finale. He's already secured the championship, but extra bonus points heading his way. He's on pole position here, and that's just going to help him out that little bit more. Lucas Basin can't improve. He stays in 11th. Alex Santana going to be the last to come across the line, currently in 13th, and he does improve, I think, up to P3. Just looking at the steering wheel, yes, 3rd fastest for Alex Santana. Very impressive lap to close out the session.
Yeah, very nicely done there from Santana. A big improvement found for the Spaniard, but it is your champion-elect. It is your champion of the season, Luca Rapasa, who takes pole position by 0.5 at the start of the session. We thought it could be an easy ride for the Dutchman, but Murphy did surely make him work for that one. Then it's Santana in 3rd, Langrock 4th, Ralston 5th, then Lorero, Knott, Raminguez and Pabst. And Elia Tomasetto rounds out your top 10. Then it's Ivanis Krieg, Basler, Quintino, SD Holmes, Tom 97, Niall Gio, and Roberts rounds out your field with a Kokeni and Hiatala, both having qualifying bands starting on that back row of the grid. But, ladies and gentlemen, you do not want to miss this season finale. The championship's already decided, the gloves are off, and we should be in for a very spicy race around the fastest street circuit on the calendar here at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. So we shall be back in a few moments time while we get this lobby reset to go again, and we shall see you in a little bit. Stay here and make sure you don't miss this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit, a 6.174 kilometre or 3.836 miles for us to take in this evening. 27 turns, of course, a 25-lap race ahead of us, but with plenty an overtaking opportunity for a street track and, of course, 3 DRS zones. Overtaking opportunities into the likes of turns 1, turn 13, turn 22 if you're feeling bold, and especially into that final corner of turn 27. And we should be in for quite an eventful Grand Prix as we are here for the season finale. As you can see in the track side, it is dry here in Jeddah, and it is going to be Luca Rapassa and Joe Murphy on the front row of the grid. It's 5 red lights, and we're underway here in Saudi Arabia. It's a good start for Luca Rapassa. He's able to gap Joe Murphy into that first corner. Santana looking to try swing it around the outside of the V-car, but isn't able to do so thus far. And now for Dennis Langrock, he's allowed to attack, and he's to the inside and ahead into turn 4. Langrock, the German, up into third, and exactly what he needs for his third place in the championship hopes. Jensen Rausen will hold on to 5th place. Paps versus Ramirez over 8th place in this Grand Prix, and he's been able to get by and up into 9th. The kicks Alba all over the back of Alejandro Herrero, who started on the mediums, as Joe Murphy has jumped Luca Rapassa into turn 13, and unfortunately there for Rapassa, he's lost the race lead on the opening lap. Not the greatest of getaways from the Dutchman, your champion-elect, and Oliver Knott looking to go around the outside of teammate Jensen Rausen, isn't able to get the move done. And unfortunately for Oliver, he has to stay in 6th place for now, and Marcel Papp still applying that pressure on Alejandro Herrero. Let's bring up the tyres that everybody is on here this evening. It's mediums for Herrero, Ramirez, Basler, Escrique, Holmes, Tom 97 and Hietala. And look at the momentum Paps has on those soft compounder tyres, as Ramirez is applying pressure to him as well. It's super close in this mid-pack.
Yeah, really, really interesting to see how the strategy is going to play out, as we're almost 3 wide heading into 27. Further behind, Ramirez looking up the inside of one of the Red Bulls, trying to find his way up into P9. Ivan Eskrig, also the other Alpine, making moves as well. Joe Murphy, though, leading the opening lap here at the Jeddah Corniche. Really great start for him. Gabriel Quintino gaining on to Tomasetto, looking to the inside of Ramirez, trying to get 2 on this contact as they make their way through the first corner. They will make it through just about all right without any damage on the cards, crucially. But yeah, very interesting start here, and more contact heading into turn 4 as JST looks to the inside of Quintino, who has to go off the track to avoid making contact with the Ferrari, but holds on to the position as a result. Kokendi from the back of the grid up to 13th already. Really decent start from him on those soft compound tyres. Already though, looking at the gaps at the front, things are really starting to spread out. 7 tenths from first to second and from second to third.
Yeah, at the front of the field, everything is starting to calm down, but in this mid-pack, it is all full guns blazing. That was Roberts to the inside of Eskrig, making some contact with the Alpine, and he's now made his way up into 15th, or has he? Because Eskrig is fighting back into turn 15. Has he got the move back done in the Alpine? Yes, he has, but Roberts can get the exit now out of turn 16 and try and get the move done into 22. Just isn't going to be close enough. Of course, DRS is enabled on this opening tour of the, the second tour of the circuit after that opening lap. And now for Roberts on that soft compounder tyre, needs to utilise this. Actually taps the wall there at turn 24, just a little bit too aggressive on the turning as we now make our way up into that final corner. Is he close enough for a lunge here? Onto the Alpine. Quintino went for a lunge there. Onto Tomasetto Elia is there. To the inside is Roberts. Is he going to get this move done? Quintino and Tomasetto still battling in front, as Tomasetto's actually come into pit lane, potentially picked up some front wing damage. And for Roberts, hasn't got the move done just yet, but I'm expecting a lunge into turn 1. And oh boy, has he sent that lunge to the inside. It's Eskrig off the road. Roberts round the outside will surely get the momentum out the corner. He does, and he is up into that 14th place finally, as now to the inside is also Scott Holmes onto Eskrig. Has he got the move done himself? No, he has not. Eskrig holds on to 15th, but unfortunately drops behind Roberts.
A little bit of contact between Holmes and Eskrig. Fortunately, no cars sent around or into any rules. It is a straightforward pit stop for Tomasetto, though. He's going onto those medium tyres, just going very early, looking for a bit of an undercut, I think. Yeah, interesting stuff. I think expecting to pretty much run the entire race on the medium tyres here. Which should be doable for him. 12 laps on each stint, and he will comfortably make it to the end of the race. So yeah, going for a bit of clean air since they are kind of stuck in traffic at the moment. Yeah, going to be interesting to see how things play out for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this undercut now does come into effect. Of course, through that first sector, potentially could start to find the time back, but in the middle and final sector with that back-to-back DRS zone, he could lose everything that he has just gained. But as we head up into the final corner with race leader Joe Murphy, currently leading the champion Luca Rapassa, followed by Dennis Langrock and Alex Santana. Jensen Rowson rounds out that top 5, but he's still got Oliver Knott all over the diffuser of that McLaren. He's getting closer. He's going to look for the move. Marcel Paps and Tamas Kokeni. Sorry, not Tamas Kokeni. That's JSD also into pit lane. They've joined Tomasetto in that early pit stop. Only 3 laps on those softs. Of course, a circuit that is very high on degradation, especially on this soft compounded tyre here, Josh. So it does make things harder in the opening stint if you go for that, of course, red walled tyre. So it's going to be interesting to see how this undercut now plays out for the likes of Paps, SD and Tomasetto, because they could see themselves quite comfortably up into the top 5 if things go their way.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think Pabst was inside the top 10 before he pitted. Tomasetto, who was right down at the back, has just come out ahead of him. So this undercut has definitely worked. Tomasetto's already gained 2 seconds on the pack in front of him since he came out of the pit. So yeah, this undercut definitely working out nicely. It'll be interesting to see now how the rest of the drivers react, seeing the pace that they've had, really. Yeah, they're already about 2.5 seconds up now. They are just gaining heaps and heaps and heaps of time. And it's not going to be too much longer before they're effectively into the lead of the race.
That is very true indeed. How long do these drivers at the front of the field especially take these soft compounded tyres? As Rapassa is getting closer to the back of Joe Murphy. He's starting to maybe get a little bit restless. We'll see if Murphy comes into pit lane. He does. Murphy is in. So is Alex Santana. He also dives into the pit lane, and Oliver Knott too. So for Rapassa, Langrock and Rowson, they stay out for an extra tour as Rapassa actually goes deep into that first corner. That's going to hurt him quite dearly. But where is Tomasetto a liar? He's currently now making his way down that main straight. He's weaving to potentially say to Paps, let's work together. We can potentially jump these guys as they now make their way into the first corner. Have they got into an effective race lead? They have not, but they have still got comfortably up into that top 10. And Elia Tomasetto and Marcel Paps, like I did say, would be comfortably in the top 5. Of course, Santana was 3rd, and 4, of course, Joe Murphy, he was the race leader. So for Elia Tomasetto and Paps here, Josh, they have been able to break into that top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say unless something astonishing happens, I think Elia Tomasetto is going to be running in 3rd place, albeit with slightly older tyres. This has worked out an absolute treat for him. A long, long way outside the points, and now running in a very, very strong, potentially P3 position, although he is struggling a bit to stay in the DRS of Santana. The gap currently at 9/10 of a second, so he's going to have to work a bit if he wants to stay within that 1 second margin. Rapassa has broken DRS to Langrock as well, but McLaren going to have a bit of a dilemma here. Both drivers still out there here on lap 5. One of them's going to have to pit surely on this lap, and I expect it will be Rapassa coming in. Rosen is going to have to stay out, I think, unfortunately, because of the double stack, and it's going to cost him dearly, I think, with how much of an undercut we're seeing here.
Yeah, it certainly could. Rapassa now into pit lane. Hietala on those mediums. He started the race on that compound. Has just set the fastest up of this race with a 30.1. Looking at Rapassa trundling down the pit lane, you can see on that left-hand side now on the main part of the circuit is, of course, net race leader Joe Murphy. It's Rapassa now barrels his way down into that first and second corner. He's been jumped by Santana. Elia Tomasetto has come out behind, but look at where that was, of course, as well. Dennis Langrock has come out. He's down in 15th currently, but he's been jumped not only by Marcel Paps and Elia Tomasetto, but Oliver Knott as well, who, of course, was down in 6th place. And Langrock was in 3rd by the time, of course, everybody came into the pit lane. So 3 places gained potentially for Oliver Knott here in terms of drivers on the road that were in front of him. And for the Mercedes driver of Langrock, this is not going to be good in terms of his battle with the railroad for P3 in the standings.
Yeah, going to be interesting now to see how the rest of this race plays out. We've got one more soft runner left, and that is Jensen Rosen up at the front of the field. He'll obviously be coming in, I'd expect, at the end of this lap, unless he's going to go a bit longer. Just accept he's going to be coming out probably near the back of this train anyway, and just try and give himself the best tyres for the second half of this race. But we'll just keep an eye. Yeah, he's definitely making his way into the pit lane here. Comes right over to the left-hand side of the circuit. So Loureiro now takes the lead, our leading medium runner. Ramirez in second just behind him. And these two can now work together. They've broken the DRS to base them behind as well. 2-second gap to the Haas driver. So they can kind of work together on their own to try and extend and hope that things can work out for themselves.
Yeah, certainly can. As Rapassa's actually been able to make his way past Alex Santana around the outside of the final corner. Dennis Lanrock looking now to the inside of Oliver Knott, who's looked to the inside himself of Marcel Pabst into turn 2. And it's going to be a drag race now up into 4. And the Kick Sauber is like a rolling roadblock at the moment. But Lanrock picks up that 13th place on the road. And he's ahead of the Williams driver, who's now going to look for a move around the outside of 7. That was very close to potential contact and potential racing and ending incidents for the pair of them. But for Knott, he's just having to sit behind for now. And the German of Langrock is able to just now focus his attention on to Marcel Pabst. And of course, Elia Tomasetto in front. Tomasetto has been able to bring that gap back down to Rapassa and Santana in front of him. That gap only 3 tenths between the pair. And for Luca Rapassa, where does he come out now where does he now play his cards? Does he go for the move on Joe Murphy and go for it now? Yes, he does. He's gone for it quite a bit earlier than I would have expected. I would have expected him to wait until this detection zone and then go for the move, as Jensen Ralston trying to go around the outside of JSD, not able to get the move done there, but around the outside for a turn 24, and now finally gets ahead here. Tyler able to get in front of Scott Holmes a little bit further up, and these two are squabbling down the main straight. Who's going to come out on top here? They've got Lucas Basner just in front of him as here Tyler goes to the inside of his teammate, nearly makes contact with the German, of course, as here Tyler makes his way through not only on to Scott Holmes, but Lucas Baser as well. He's up into third place now. And for Marcel Pabst, he's under pressure from Dennis Lanrock, and the German just isn't able to find his way through. What is he? There's slight contact on the exit of 2, and the Mercedes driver just has to sit behind. No room at the inn against the Kick Sauber.
Yes, still so much battling in this mid-pack. These guys almost, I think, need to start calming down a little bit, just settle themselves in, because the barriers are so close. They could easily get themselves into a race-ending incident. But, of course, we're going to love this racing, love the action. We're only on lap 8 of 25. This one is going to come very, very quickly, though, as Pabst and Langrock once again side by side. Langrock with the inside through 13 gets his way through, as Knott also trying the same move on Jensen Ralston, looking now to the outside through 15 and 16. Can he make this one work? There's contact, I think, there. Pabst is round, and that is going to cost him time. Drops him down to 17th.
Oh, that's so unfortunate there for Marcel Pabst, who's driving a brilliant race at that moment. Elia Tomasetto's dropped out of DRS, and so now is Oliver Knott onto Dennis Langrock, but he might have just clawed his way back into it. I think he has, by the barest of margins, and Ralston will now try and attack the Williams driver in front. He had to use all his battery to get back within the DRS of the Mercedes, and he is now through, and Tomasetto is now 2.4 seconds behind the top 3 of this train. And he's going to be holding up Dennis Lanrock and Jensen Ralston, and they'll have to try and claw back that deficit. Luca Rapassa is just at the fastest lap, but in the process nearly dropped Joe Murphy by 1 second. Lanrock able to get past on Elia Tomasetto. Will Ralston go for the move around the outside? No, he will not. He's going to maybe shake this one up for an exit on turn 2. The Red Bull with a slight slide, and here comes Ralston to the outside into turn 4. Is he going to go for the move? No, just backs off, but that allows Tomasetto to go deep into the corner. But crucially here as well for Dennis Lanrock as well, Josh, this squabbling between the two behind him is allowing him to break the DRS. And here's he tries to hunt down on Alex Santana in front.
Yeah, I mean, you've said rolling roadblock a couple times. I think this is the best definition of what we're looking at here. The gap, every single time someone gets past, the rest of the cars get stuck behind. You build a DRS gap, as Langrock now has done. 1.2 seconds is the gap, although Ralston with the DRS is going to look to try and close back in out of the corner here. But yeah, I mean, it is interesting to see how this dynamic is going to play in. Of course, he is on quite significantly older tyres. There's a 4-lap tyre advantage between Tomasetto and Ralston here. And yeah, not actually able to get past in towards turn number 22. Going to have to wait for the next straight.
Yes, he certainly is, and crucially as well here, Joe Murphy's lost the DRS to Luca Rapassa. Alex Santana's got the DRS on to the V-car, but there's Ralston able to get past there on Tomasetto. We have our first medium runner into the pit lane, that's Tony Hietala. Only elected to do 9 laps on that mediums and then go for the undercut as we actually see Quintino going to go for the move here on Elia Tomasetto. Just isn't able to get the move done for now. Luca Rapassa able to make his way past Tom 97 in the first part of traffic. He's had to navigate as Tomasetto goes deep. This might give Quintino the run like we saw Jensen Ralston trying to do, but no, the Aston Martin loses the rear on the exit of the second corner and has to sit behind into turn 4. So now he is the one stuck behind the Red Bull, and for Tom 97, he can be a little bit of a hindrance here for Joe Murphy in his battle with Luca Rapassa in front. That gap now between the top 2 in this race, in the net race lead, should I say, is Rapassa and Murphy. That's now 1.7 seconds. So for the Dutchman, he is really starting to stretch his legs and streak further and further clear. And for the Mercedes at Tom 97, he is certainly going to play a bit of a nuisance to Joe Murphy, who might have to lift off a little bit more through turn 22.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Now the gap between Murphy and Rapassa up to 2 seconds. He's going to have the DRS here, of course. But how this plays out eventually, I think, is Rapassa is going to have broken clear. And we might have to see an undercut from Murphy, giving himself a tyre disadvantage for the final stint just to get himself back into contention. Still Murphy gaining towards the final corner, but he can't make the move stick. He's going to sit behind, take the DRS as our leaders are making their way into the pit lane now. Murphy going to make this move here down towards turn 1, but the gap is over 2 seconds between Murphy and Rapassa.
Yeah, that is a big deficit now. He needs to try and bring down as Ramirez and Herrero are going to use their soft tyre stint in the mid-stage of this race. In the middle of the Grand Prix is when they're going to use their softs. They're not going to do the medium soft or the soft medium. They're going to go medium soft medium, I would expect. And for Ramirez, he's able to get out in front of Paps. And for the Herrero, he was just behind Tom Roberts and nearly got squeezed into the wall, where you could see how much of a pace difference they have on this opening lap compared to the 2 in front of them, because they are all over the back of the 2 scarlet red Ferraris as they gallop their way down into turn 12. And here comes the Herrero past 1. Can he get past 2? No, just has to sit behind Esti into the banked hairpin of turn 13. It's now going to be all about this exit for Alejandro Herrero. He's got the exit onto Esti, and I think Esti will back out of this one. Yes, he does. Smart not to risk any damage. And of course, not only these guys are trying to make their way through the pack, same with Tony Hietala, who's already up into P11. So for the Herrero and Ramirez, they're going to be back into the pit lane very shortly, whereas Hietala will go all the way probably to around about lap 21.
Yeah, but Hietala going to have a lot of overtaking to do right at the end of this race. But with how we've seen the soft tyres performing right now, with the overtakes we've seen a little bit further behind, he could be in a decent position, as here 2 overtakes on 1 straight. Hietala looking to the inside of Oliver, not Lucas Baesner, his teammate, into the pit lane now here as we start lap number 12.
Oh, collision in the background. It's with Ivan Escrig and Tom Roberts. Roberts is round. Escrig putting it to the wall. Sorry to cut in there, Josh. I just saw it in the background and it brought out a huge kerfuffle behind. And I think as well, Scott Holmes might have some front wing damage in all of that. No, sorry, it isn't Scott Holmes with front wing damage. I don't think anyone else does. Tom Roberts has retired and it's a virtual safety car. And for Luca Rapassa and Joe Murphy, well, it might be a little bit too early, but I was going to say, could a free pit stop be on the cards? But for someone it could be for. Herrero and Ramirez, if it stays out long enough, could they potentially try eke out those tyres for as long as they possibly can?
Well, I think this safety car, if it stays out long enough for them to get to the pits, works out for everybody except for Scott Holmes, Tony Hietala and Tom 97 and Ivan Escrig. And Lucas Baesner, anybody who has already used a soft tyre in this race who could pit onto a medium will be able to get to the end of this race. If they come in, it'll be the start of lap 13. So yeah, 12 laps of racing once they do get onto it, which we know is possible, but it unfortunately has ended early. So that's gone out the window. But yeah, had it stayed out long enough, that would have been a prime opportunity, especially for some of our leaders to maybe think about an early pit stop.
Yeah, it certainly could have been indeed, but unfortunately there Safety car came in as Tom 97's still overtaken now by Jensen Rowson, and Dennis Lanrock as well might try and follow the McLaren driver through, and Tom 97 just lets him through. Goes wide at the exit of the corner and says, you just go through, of course, Dennis, and do what you can. There's no point fighting in this race so far. He's taken those medium tyres quite a long way into the race, longer than anyone else, as the two Red Bulls now run side by side down into that first corner. Late on the brakes from the Railroad against his teammate Tomasetto, and Elia Tomasetto just has to see him through, and the same could be said as well for Aaron Ramirez as he now looks to the inside. But the good thing is potentially here as well as a yellow flag in the first sector. That's for Ivan Eskrig, who's gone round once again, this time on the exit of turn 2. But I was going to say there, Josh, is the good thing there for Ramirez and the Railroad is the fact that virtual safety car came out, and it would have saved their tyres a little bit longer, so they can maybe do a shorter stint on those mediums. And of course, here as well, have a bit more energy in the tyre to get their way further up through the field before they do have to come in.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that actually would be something they're happy with, because obviously they've lost at least half a lap of opportunities to make those overtakes. So yeah, it's interesting to think about the pros and cons of having that virtual safety car. Of course, tyres will last a bit longer, but they weren't able to overtake. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how things play out, especially for these two who are going to have a bit of an undercut, I think, to come very, very soon. And yeah, could be in an interesting position as Hietala now through on Tom 97.
Yep, Tom 97, of course, the only driver yet to make a pit stop. Potentially going to be trying a one-stop here is Tom 97 for now. Be interesting to see what he does as we see some drivers into the pit lane. That's Quintino, Tom 97, and also I think it was Scott Holmes. It's actually Quintino retires from the race. Surprised to see that, of Quintino retiring. I don't know, maybe picked up some front wing damage, and that cost him dear, as Oliver Knott is now being overtaken by Aaron Ramirez, and he is overtaken. It was not who I thought came into pit lane, but no, was just getting overtaken by the Railroad and Ramirez and just stuck to that inside line. But quite confused to see why Quintino retired. The only explanation I would have is if there was front wing damage for the Aston Martin there, Josh, because it was in quite a decent position with still quite a lengthy way to go in this race.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly have a look and see. They didn't change his front wing after his retired car came into the pits. So yeah, I'm not actually sure exactly the reason there. Maybe he wasn't able to make it to the end of the race due to just something else going on in his life. But yeah, unfortunate for him to be retiring here tonight. Tom 97 went onto the soft compound tyres, so looking to find a decent chunk of time here. Maybe his plan is to wait for everybody else to pit. He's going to gain some positions here and then hope that a safety car comes out and he can go onto a set of mediums to the end, maybe. It's a bold strategy, I think, if that is the case. Otherwise, he's just going to be kind of playing the basic strategy of the soft, medium, soft that we've seen from Loureiro and Ramirez as well.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I'm quite confused with Tom 97's strategy choice there, because he's now 7.1 seconds off the back of his screen and kind of in no man's land, and there's nothing he can really do about it, as Oliver Knott now does decide to come into pit lane off those mediums alongside Marcel Pabst and JST, so they're going for another undercut at the front of the field. Luca Rapassa has kept that gap around about 2 seconds over himself and Joe Murphy. Alex Santana's just hanging on by the coattails, with Joe Murphy just being pulled along with the DRS away from Jensen Rowson, of course, is 4th currently, and Dennis Lanrock in 5th. So for Rapassa, the Dutchman, the champion so far, well, in this season and so far in this final round, is looking to make it 4 wins on the bounce, make it 5 out of the last 6. And this certainly will be a performance to remember, because I think so far this season, Josh, this is the most dominated we've seen a race so far in the dry. Of course, Tony Hietala dominated quite a lot in Singapore. But in the dry, at the very least, I think this is the first time, really, we've ever seen the leader break DRS by this much and not be closed back in by the likes of the car behind.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it might have happened once or twice that I remember of where they've broken DRS, but it was usually right towards the end of the race and with something else kind of coming into play. Rapassa has just, as I was looking, extended that gap by 0.4 of a second as well. I'm not sure, maybe a mistake for Murphy potentially as Rosen into the pit lane. Something I was looking at, the gap with Tom 97, I think if whenever he comes into the pits, he's probably going to be coming out somewhere around P7. Of course, he may still have a stop left to go, but again, if there's a safety car, that could put him in with a potential shot at points.
That is very true. It can put him into that shout, and of course, with how we've had a virtual safety car already, a safety car isn't too far off the cards. But the only issue with that as well, of course, you do have the turn 4 incident where if you tap the wall there, your front wheel comes off, and that could potentially cause a safety car. But the only issue I feel like with that strategy at the moment here, Josh, is the fact drivers aren't really too close together. There is quite a few cars that are around about a second behind one another. Of course, you've got Scott Holmes, the Rero, and Raminguez in a little gaggle. But then look at Noel Gio, he's 5 seconds behind. And then you've got Iskrig, and it's a 3-second gap to Jensen Rausen at the front of the field. Look, you've got 2.7 between Rapassa and Murphy. And then between Santana and Rock, it's 2.8. You've kind of got little duos of cars instead of a big, long train. So I think for Tom 97, it's a risky strategy, but it's the only way I feel like he can really get points.
Yeah, and unfortunately, just to add to his troubles, while you were saying that, he was in the dirty air of Jensen Rosset, who came out just in front of him, and he skateboarded on the curb by turn 9 that we were talking about before the race, and he's now lost about 3 seconds to the McLaren, and Oliver Knott now through, as well as our top 3 are all into the pit lane now.
Yeah, Rapassa, Murphy, Santana all into the pits, and if everything goes smoothly, Rapassa should be clear by 2.7 seconds once again. Yes, as we now make our way down that pit lane exit, and he is ahead. What about Jensen Rausen? How well has this undercut been for him? Has he been able to make his way onto the podium places? Ooh, he might be actually. It could be side-by-side on pit lane exit. It is side-by-side, but Santana with that extra momentum, having that wider exit from the corner, just holds on to that P3. But, of course, here as well, Josh, Jensen was around about 2 seconds behind and had 1 lap of an undercut, so he did a really strong outlap there to get as close as he did to the Aston Martin. It's just really unfortunate with the layout of this pit lane exit because it slingshots you back onto the road, and that allowed the Spaniard to stay ahead.
Yeah, unfortunate stuff. And looking at the gap between Rapassa and Murphy, of course, Iskrig is in between them, so that's only going to help Rapassa here even more. That gap could be upwards of 3 seconds very soon. Yeah, it has stayed the same. In fact, it has increased very marginally. Murphy with the DRS going to look to get himself past Iskrig in towards 22 as they make contact there on the straight. That was very nearly a very, very big crash, and they're off the road. Iskrig and Murphy make contact. He comes back onto the track. Santana making contact with Iskrig as they come back on the track. Fortunately, no damage for the Aston Martin. Only Iskrig sent tumbling down, but that was a big, big moment and very nearly a very big crash as well.
That was so lucky as well that we do have ghosting on here in WR, because Jensen Rausen would have just clattered straight into the side of Ivan Iskrig as Dennis Langrock's come into the pit lane. And for Joe Murphy, that has potentially just taken him out of a top 2 finish. It's looking like now as Iskrig retires from the race, our 3rd retirement is going to be off the podium for Joe Murphy. And for the V-Carb, who's driven flawlessly all evening long, until that very moment. Unfortunately for him, he is going to tumble out of that top 3. And now with that controversial incident, there was contact down the back straight between turn 16 and 22. And then, of course, then some more contact heading into the corner. I think it was just that Murphy turned in a little bit earlier than Iskrig was expecting. And then, of course, the natural wheel hooking happens at that point, Josh. And that sent them both as passengers off the road, and then they tried to rejoin as quickly as possible, and then all of a sudden, an Aston Martin appears.
Yeah, I don't think this is entirely over for Joe Murphy. He's got a tyre advantage over Rosen. He's gaining a decent chunk of time through that middle sector, got to about 4 tenths per second. I think there's still a chance he can get his way past Rosen, and then Santana doesn't have DRS. In which case he can try and fight this one. In fact, he might already be considering a move here towards 27. The gap a 10.5 as they're gaining towards the final corner, gaining on Santana as well, but not able to make the move. Murphy goes a bit wider, trying to set up the exit. Could be having a look as they run down towards turn 1. The gap only a 10th of a second. The DRS opens up, and Murphy tucked up right in that slipstream, gaining once again, burning all of the battery. But I think Rosen has more. He's going to look to the outside of Santana into the first corner. Here comes Murphy to the inside, trying to make this position back, and he tries to find his way through, but not able to get the move done there. A bit of contact between them just unsettled the car slightly, doesn't get the run through the corner and has to settle back down.
Yeah, Joe Murphy tried a lunge there. It was risky, but it would have paid off if he was able to get the move done. But he just has to sit behind once again through this first sector, and he really is racing now. Of course, when you're in an instant like that, like he had with his Screed, you get a little bit hot and bothered under that helmet. You start to get a little bit angry and a little bit more feisty in your driving. And you push that car a little bit harder than what you did before, and you start to see potentially drivers either make mistakes or build up to that pressure and start to really put in lap after lap of monumental improvements in race time and find time where usually, if they were just on that tyre saving, if they weren't so angry, where they would usually save or potentially just lose a bit of time, as Murphy actually goes off the road there to get the exit onto Jensen and Rowson, potentially just using up one of these track limit warnings. Of course, you get 3 before, you get 2 before a time penalty, as Rapassa has been able to make his way past on Scott Holmes and also Lucas Baisner, as Tony Atala now comes into the pit lane, and for Joe Murphy, once again all over the back of Jensen Rowson as we make our way down the main straight. The McLaren driver will try and get closer once again to the back of Alex Santana to try and get a move done on the Spaniard, but Murphy sends it to the inside once more. There's contact between the pair. Be round the outside for the vehicle of the McLaren with a slightly unsettled run out the corner, and that's Joe Murphy through up into the top 3 once again. He tried it on the previous lap, it didn't work, but this time he had a bit more commitment. It wasn't as half-hearted, and Joe Murphy with a beautiful move down the inside to see him back onto the podium, and that battle for second place will now ensue with the Aston Martin of Santana in front.
Equal tyres to Santana, although he might have used a bit more trying to make that overtake work. But yeah, now there's no DRS. There is a DRS advantage, sorry, between Santana and Murphy, although that gap 0.8 of a second, he's going to have to work here to try and bring that down. It's almost the DRS broken, actually, between Santana and Murphy, 0.9 of a second as they come out of turn 16, but that'll be enough to keep him in the DRS. He can sit behind, he can recharge his battery and get ready for a final few laps of battling come the end of this race.
Yes, we certainly could be. Rapassa as well and truly checked out. He's 6 seconds clear from these guys behind him in this race, and he has just absolutely dominated this one. I think Baisner might be trying to get to the end here. He will be able to get to the end here on those mediums, so this still might be yet for just a podium position. It depends how quickly they catch up to Lucas Baisner. Tony Atala has made his way past now onto Aaron Ramirez. Has he been able to get the move done on the exit of the corner? Yes, he has. Murphy won't be close enough down that main straight to be able to get anywhere near Alex Santana. Neither will Rowson be able to get a move done. Here comes Atala to the inside of the railroad. He gets through as well. And for Lucas Baisner here, actually, he might have pulled off an absolute blinder of a strategy here, Josh. He's currently second.
He hasn't run the soft.
No, he hasn't, yes. I thought he started on the softs potentially, and no, he hasn't run the soft. So for Lucas Baisner, it looked like a very good strategy until it was not. And I'm surprised he's going so long, because he's going to get hugely undercut here and potentially could lose out on points.
Well, I think this is just the ultimate gamble on the softs. Just go absolutely all in these final few laps and just try and make up as many positions as he possibly can. I've just looked as well at what Tom 97's been doing. He's done a medium soft in this race. Very interesting, unless he accidentally picked the harder tire allocation. That's the only thing I can think of. That is a strategy, to say the least. I was not expecting to see that one coming into this race.
No, that certainly is one of the strategies of all time from Tom 97. Very unique, and I do quite like it, because it's the only time I think this season we have seen a medium soft. So he's done something different in the final round. It's not worked, but still, it's something different, and it's something unique that we've not seen so far this season. As Baisner finally pulls into pit lane, he'll do 4 laps on those soft compounder tyres to the end. We'll see how well he does. As we're talking about him, his teammate gets by there on to Oliver Knott, as Joe Murphy's been able to get the move done onto Alex Santana. He must have sent that from a few attempts back from a completely different postcode, as he goes really slowly into turn number 4. I think now what we might see from Murphy here, Josh, he might try and back Santana up into Rowson to allow them two to squabble and let him break away over the course of the final 4 laps.
Well, they've got to be careful here. Hietala 1.7 seconds behind on new soft compound tyres. He is going to be into the DRS, I think, on this lap, and that is going to spell a whole world of disaster because he's going to be absolutely flying here into this battle. Could still be on, especially with some Corniche carnage. Could be on for a P2 here.
Certainly could be indeed, and there he is with inside the DRS. Look at the train. Joe Murphy has got behind him, and he's defending like his life depends on it. There goes Santana. He goes through. Will Rosen try and follow him? No, he will not. I think another thing that Murphy might be doing is trying to save the battery in front of the Aston Martin driver. Murphy now with a DRS, same with Jensen Rowson alongside Hietala and Oliver Knott, who's also been able to catch up to this train. Raminguez might be one of the contenders soon too, as Murphy looks to the outside of Santana. That's going to allow Jensen Rowson to sneak to the inside of the V-Carb. Isn't able to get anything done there. The gap now between Rapasa and the fill behind is 10 seconds. Here comes Joe Murphy to the outside. Will Jensen Rowson try and move? Will Langrock try and move onto the McLaren? He looks for it, isn't able to get it done. Murphy deep into the first couple of corners. Santana might try go for the switcheroo. Isn't able to do so just yet. But for Joe Murphy, he's back up into second place. And does he back them all up again this time? Or is this the opportunity where he tries to break clear after saving that battery?
Well, it's going to be interesting, and he's got to do it. If he is going to do it, it's got to be now, because Hietala now, right on the back of Langrock, is going to start hunting these cars down. He's going to be ready to make those moves. I think he was saving his tyres a bit, saving up the battery as well on the previous lap as we make our way in. And there, wide! Joe Murphy going deep in towards turn 13. That's going to allow Santana a chance to get through the field. Bunches up once again, half a second covering these 5 drivers as we head in towards turn 15, looking to the inside. Rowson trying to think about a move there. Now Hietala right on the back of Langrock is going to be eager to make these moves as they're going to head towards 22. Murphy is 6/10s clear. Could this be his chance to break away if Rosen and Santana start fighting on this lap as well? Looks like they're just going to close back in with the DRS, but things getting interesting now as Santana going wide. That's going to give Rosen and Langrock and maybe Hietala a potential chance for the run towards 27 as we get ready to start the penultimate lap. Rapasa is now 11 seconds clear at the front. Santana to the inside. Here comes Langrock as well. Now looking to try and find his way through on Rosen. There's a bit of contact, but they make it through the corner cleanly. All the while, Hietala hasn't been able to make a single move with his fresh soft tyres.
No, he has not. He's just stuck. He's boxed in at the moment. Here he comes to the inside of Dennis Langrock. Squeezed up against the pit wall. And Langrock will go deep into the corner, have the inside for turn 2. But Hietala might just get the traction down. But of course, those softs will be starting to feel worse for wear at this stage. They're will banging down into turn 4. And Hietala finally through up into P5. It is nicely as you like. And the Haas driver finally ahead. But for Murphy, he wasn't able to break away. And Santana is once again all over the back of him once more.
This is now a train from 2nd to 10th. Just a few laps ago, this race was like 2 cars, then 2 cars, then 2 cars, a seconds gap. Murphy wide again. What is going on with Joe Murphy down to turn 13? Santana is now through, up into P2 once again. Maybe this is a tactical decision by Murphy to get the DRS towards 22. Maybe he's trying to fuel save. I'm not too sure what is going on with the V-Carb down at turn 13, but he is behind once again. Maybe he just wants to have that DRS for the final lap, have Santana in front of him to help him defend from the cars behind him, then make the move right at the end of this race. Rapasa now 13 seconds clear, 2 seconds faster on the previous lap. He is well and truly done unless he hits a wall on this final lap. An incredible drive, a champion's drive here tonight from Luca Rapasa in towards 27. Santana trying to hold on to this position. Murphy right on the back of him. And now one final dance of the Corniche. Is it going to be Santana, Murphy, Rosen, Hietala, or maybe someone else with these final 2 podium positions? Here comes Murphy in towards turn 1 to take P2 back, the lead of this train. Santana just sitting in behind now, tucks the nose in. And this is about to get chaotic on the final lap.
It certainly is indeed, Josh. And as Rapasa does one of the drives of the season, the champion has done his champion drive. And for the battle for second place, it all heats up here in the Middle East. We were expecting a little bit of chaos at some point in this race. It was quite bog standard. It was your normal, just setting the DRS train, get moves done, until Joe Murphy has started to come out swinging and pulled this train up, potentially just for our own entertainment at home. But as we make our way through turn 13 and look at the gap Murphy's got over Santana, he might have just streaked far enough clear, but will quickly head to the driver at the front of the field as he does his crowning lap. The final tour, the final part of this Jeddah Corniche circuit is what stands between Rapasa and that championship crown. It has been a miraculous comeback. He has fought tooth and nail for this title. The Dutchman will become a two-time WRPC Tier 2 champion, and in fine style. The champion's drive has been completed. It's now 5 out of the last 6 races for Luca Rapasa. A lowest finisher second in 6 races. Fine form, fine momentum, a fine drive from Luca Rapasa. The champion takes the victory here in Jeddah, and just like he did with the title, he dominated the streets of the Corniche. And for Luca Rapasa, take a bow. What a performance here tonight. And for the Dutchman, that is utter delight under the lights. The champion has been crowned, and it is the Dutchman of Luca Rapasa.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Joe Murphy managing to recover after the chaos, getting caught up with Ivan Eskrig heading in towards 22. He somehow managed to find his way back into that second place. Took a bit of tactical driving in those final few laps, but he worked it out. He managed his battery well, and he was able to hold on to it right at the end there. I don't think there was a single move in that top 10 in those final few laps, but yeah. In the final lap, there was definitely moves in the laps preceding it. But yeah, we got the chaos in those final few laps, and it really did deliver here at the Corniche. And yeah, ultimate champion's drive by Rapasa. It's incredible. 12 seconds clear. Of course, the driver's going behind, going a bit slower, but that is an incredible margin to be pulling here.
Oh, it certainly is, of course. It was 10 seconds before all that. Actually, no, it wasn't 10 seconds, sorry, before all that Tom Fury. It was a little bit lower. It was around about 7 seconds until Murphy got through, and then it started to back up, and then it was 10 seconds, then it moved up to 13, and then Rapasa did his weaves to the line, and that's what, of course, brought that gap down to Joe Murphy. But it was Rapasa who takes the crown. He takes the victory here in the final round of the season, and what a season it's been for the Dutchman. And it's Murphy, Santana, the top 3 in qualifying, top 3 in the race. And it's Jensen Rowson in 5th here. Tada from last to 5th. What a performance that was for him. Then it's Dennis Langrock, Oliver Knott, Lorero, Raminguez, Kokeni, Elliot, who rounds up the point scorers. Then it's Elliot Tomasetto, Holmes, Baisner, Paps, Gio, Esti, and Tom97 rounds out your finishers. Then it's Greek, Quintino, and Roberts, your non-scorers for this evening. In the battle for 3rd in the standings, it is going to be Dennis Langrock, who takes that 3rd place here, Josh, by a singular point. What a performance that was from Langrock to get it done at the end, and he was able to hold on to that 3rd place in the standings after he got overtaken by Lorero in the charts last week. So for the German, he's got something to be proud of as well. P3, best of the rest essentially behind Rapasa and Dowds. He'll be very happy with that.
Yeah, he's got caught up in a couple of incidents with some other drivers this season, often not through the fault of his own. I think he'll be happy to have picked up P3 here. Yeah, really decent result, and 1 point as well. Just able to get that one done, 1 position lower, and he would have lost that. So yeah, really great drive by him here tonight.
Yeah, certainly was indeed, and a great race overall. But we at least have one driver in the waiting room, and that is, of course, the champion, Luca Rapasa. So, Josh, shall we bring him into the commentary box and hear from our Season 23 PC Tier 2 Drivers Champion? Actually, no, Alex Santana's just pipped him, but we will speak to Luca Rapasa as he takes the crown for the race and the title. Luca, here at Saudi Arabia, that must have been one of the most relaxing drives at this circuit that it's ever seen.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't too bad. It was a nice race to end the season.
Yeah, it certainly was indeed, of course, taking the win by 12 seconds. Just talk us through things. How did you find qualifying? How did you find the race?
Qualifying a bit disappointed, to be honest. I lost like over 10th in the last by just not being committed because I just wanted to settle up. And then the race, I picked one lap after Joe, overtook Alex like on the out lap, and then I knew I was faster and I knew I had the pace to drive away. So that's what I did, and then from that point onwards, it was very relaxing.
Yeah, it certainly did seem it, of course. You were around about, I think it was 7 seconds clear by the time Murphy got past Alex Santana. Was you a bit confused at what was going on? Because at one point, surely, I think the gap between you and Joe Murphy was going up by at least 2-3 seconds a lap. Were you a bit like, what's going on here then?
Yeah, but then I just really was like kind of grieving. So I don't know why I would do that, but it's not part of my race, so I don't really care. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very solid start to the race as well. You got overtaken by Joe Murphy on the race start. Was that always part of the plan? Because he seemed to have pipped you into turn 12. Did you want to sit in second place at the start of that race and save battery, save tyres, and then push on later on?
Well, I was considering a one stop. Like I knew that if you'd save enough tires, it was possible. But then he decided to do his own thing, which is understandable. By driving a faster pace, which made it like impossible to do a one stop. So I just sat behind him, just waiting and to see what he was doing, and then yeah, I saw he pit. I knew I could go one more lap without losing a lot of pace, so I did that, and the rest of the race worked out very well.
Yeah, it did work into your favour into the end, that faster pace, and of course tonight, I think more than any night really, you've had to deal with a lot of traffic with the drivers doing the alternate strategy. Just how difficult was it to manage getting through that traffic, should I say, while trying to defend from Joe Murphy behind? Because of course at one stage you had to get past both Holmes and Lucas Baisner into that final and first corner. Of course you had the gap to Murphy then, but was you worried you were going to get stuck behind those two?
Not really. I was a bit optimistic with my my dive, to be honest. I misjudged it a tiny bit, so I almost had a collision with Scott. So it was all fine. There was no contact made. But the rest of the traffic didn't really hinder me. Every time I got close to someone, they either pit or they just let me by on the straight. So it wasn't really any issue apart from that moment in the last corner.
Yeah, it certainly seems that you breezed through those drivers, of course. And one last one from me before I hand you over to, of course, Josh. Of course, the championship is now officially wrapped up, of course, even though Dowds, you knew, wasn't racing here this evening. Just how good does it feel to be a two-time champion here in PC Tier 2? And just how did the season go in your eyes? Were you happy with how you performed throughout the season, or is there anything you would do differently?
Well, yeah, I'm quite happy. It's just, of course, like I could have won Mexico, and then I got half spun in China as well, which I think I could have won both races. So, apart from those moments, it's been a really good season. Like I think, apart from that, I've gotten first or second. Well, first and then one time a second. So it's been a good season apart from those two races.
Yeah, it has certainly been a good season indeed. And actually, I say that was the last one. I've got one more. Just, of course, that you had fine momentum come the end of the season. Of course, that win marks 4 in a row. It also means 5 out of the last 6. So you've won half the races this season. Just how confident were you feeling, especially once you got to that point just before Austria, where it was 2 in a row? How confident were you in this second half of the season that you were going to get this championship done?
Very. Like most of the tracks I didn't really like were out of it, so I knew the only tracks I'd like, and I was very confident I could win the championship again.
Well, you certainly have, and I shall pass you over to Josh. But yeah, congratulations on the victory and on the title as well. Josh, any questions from you?
Yeah. Now that the season is wrapped up, do you have anything to say about the format? Is it something you've enjoyed as a bit of a change? Is it something you'd like to see coming back in the future? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, to be honest, with this game, these races are more fun than the normal races. Like, you can do a lot of different strategies compared to the normal medium hard. So it's a lot more entertaining, in my opinion. There's a lot more variety in what people do. So there's a lot more overtakes, a lot more actual racing. So in that way, it's a lot more fun, in my opinion. It's only you have to really save the tires on this game, so that's a bit of a downside, but it's more fun than the normal races.
Yeah, and as well, obviously, you dominated the race today. Is there anything you would have done differently? Maybe just timing the pit stop slightly different to avoid any traffic, or ultimately, was it kind of played to perfection?
Well, I wouldn't have, yeah, maybe you could say like that. Only thing I would have done different is a bit more commitment and quality, but everything was played out really well, apart from for the rest of the race.
Yeah, well, congratulations to yourself. Another win, as we said, 4 in a row, 5 from the last 6, and the championship as well, of course, the big one. Yeah, massive congratulations to you, Luca.
Thank you.
Well, that was champion Luca Rapassa. It was very nice to hear from the Dutchman here in the commentary box. But now, Josh, I think we should speak to third place man. Of course, qualified third, finished third, Alex Santana. So let's now bring him into the call. Hello, Alex. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Well, first of all, congratulations on that third place. Just talk us through things. How did you find that race?
It was fun. Yeah, I've not raced a lot of races of this format, but it is actually so fun. And yeah, we were pushing a lot at the start, and then at the end you saw the tactics from Joe, which was interesting to say the least. So yeah, it was a fun race.
Yeah, talking about those tactics from Joe, just how difficult was it to try and manage not being hit from the car behind and carrying enough speed to not pretty much be a sitting duck to Jensen Rowson and the likes of Dennis Lamrock behind you, while also making sure you don't hit Joe Murphy in front of you, who was going extremely slowly. Just how difficult was that part of the race?
Yeah, you just have to. I basically was looking behind every second, almost more than I was looking at the front. You just have to be very aware, because obviously you want to be in second because it's the best position to be in, like in the train. But you can also not really risk it that much, because it can happen that you get overtaken, you get third or fourth, and then your race is really done because there's no way you get out of there. So you just have to be very aware of the guys behind. And at some point, I just didn't want to risk it, and I just overtook him, because at worst I will get P2 again in the train. So yeah, you just have to play a bit with it. He ended up being ahead of me, but I'm not too bothered, honestly. I take the P3.
Yeah, P3 certainly is a good result for you, and I think that's your first victory, or not victory, sorry, your first podium of the season, should I say, in the final race as well. You say you enjoy this format, it's very fun. Of course, would you like to see it implemented into future seasons? Of course, I've kind of stolen your question there, Josh, but like you asked for Luca, but would you like to see it in future installments, Alex, on this game at the very least? Maybe even just a one-off mini-season near the end of the 25 cycle?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good way to change things a bit. I think if every league race was like this, it would eventually be like the normal strategy, because everyone would get used to it and it wouldn't change much. But if we do it like this, where it's only one league, it's WOR's thing, and it works like this, it's really fun. So yeah, it would be nice to see it back.
Yeah, it certainly is a fun addition indeed. And of course, qualifying as well, you got third place. So you started where you finished, but you had a big improvement on that final lap. Were you just making some costly errors on the opening few runs that made your life a little bit more difficult come the end of that qualifying session?
I mean, my two first laps weren't great, but I was also dealing with some computer issues, so I had to fix that. And yeah, last lap was way smoother, so I could focus on the lap itself, and it worked out.
Yeah, it certainly did work out indeed. But one last one from me before I hand you over to Josh for any question he has. But of course, heading into season 24, whether that's with the F1 25 or the 26 DLC, just how confident does this podium make you feel? Of course, yes, it's in this different format, but does it give you that extra boost of confidence if you're back here in Tier 2 for next season?
I mean, yeah, last few races were a bit not great, so this definitely proves I can, like fight with the best. So yeah, it's a great ego boost, we should say, but yeah, it's really good to see.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that third place, and yeah, hopefully we see you back here in Tier 2 in Season 24, whenever that is. And over to you, Josh. Do you have any questions for Alex?
Yeah, the usual question from me, as it has turned out to be the season. Throughout this race, is there anything you would have done differently now looking back after the race? Do you think maybe you could have gotten a bit more out of it? Maybe changing the timing of your pit stops or gone for a move that you were thinking about potentially?
I don't think I could have done many things different and it would have turned any better, because yeah, when I boxed the first time, I just overtook Dennis and he didn't get past me. And yeah, in the Luca was unstoppable today, so I didn't really do much about that. And the second stop, I just followed Joe because it was the best thing I could do. He had a bit more pace than me. And the final tactics, I don't think I could have done much because he had a bit more pace than me, so he would have got P2 anyways. So yeah, I think I couldn't have done anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, well, massive congratulations on the podium here tonight. Really great drive from you.
Thank you.
Well, that was third place man, Alex Santana. What a great drive from himself. But I think, Josh, that could be all from us this season. How have you found it here in Tier 2 for the races you've been a part of? Just how have you found this format as well? I think this is the first time you've done comms on a format like this in WR. Just how have you found the format as well? Have you found it much more entertaining, or is there anything you would change?
Yeah, I have to say, it has been interesting coming into these races. You don't really know what to expect. Of course, we've seen so many times over and over massive undercuts and massive overcuts coming into play because nobody knows what to do with the strategy, really. I think the drivers have picked up a bit of a better understanding as we've gone through. But ultimately, we've seen so many different strategies, and you can never know exactly what to expect coming into it. I think that's what's really nice about this format is there is that variety. Whereas it's usually it's just medium hard medium on one or two tracks. You might see a two-stop coming into play, but for the most part, it is basically the same strategy week in, week out. Whereas here, there's so much variety, and I think that is the very nice thing.
It certainly is. It's one of the nice things about, of course, this format is the fact that it does switches things up a bit. It makes drivers think on their toes. They're not used to these strategies. It's mystery tracks as well, so it's not like they can learn the next track and what strategy it is. So it's all very quick thinking last minute. The only reason tonight may have been a bit more less on their toes is because they've got it later on in the week. So it means that, of course, that they're already in a little bit of the know-how of their setup, their car, and everything they want. So it has certainly delivered some spectacular racing, of course, at the start of the season as well, when we saw people at China do the one-stop, Josh, the likes of Leo Lund try to stay out long, and you've had races where even the free stop happened with Scott Holmes and he was able to make it onto the podium. So we've had many a different strategy. The most favourable one has always been the soft medium, but you've had drivers think outside the box, do something different. And I think that's certainly what this format has invited, is the fact that drivers can use their initiative and try something different and still get results other than your same boring old medium hard, hard medium strategy.
Yeah, I mean, today we saw Hiatala doing the medium soft, and he came home with a P5. So, yeah, ultimately it is definitely a positive to be able to see lots and lots of different strategies. I think, how many did we see today? We saw soft, medium, 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 soft, medium, and from Tom 97 we saw medium, soft. So there's already 4 different strategies there that we saw, and I think that's just an incredible thing that we get out of this.
It certainly is indeed, and the fact that everything could be ever changing. Of course, we did have Rapasa dominate at the end of the season, but the mystery format still works because it is still ridiculously close throughout this field. When, of course, you're just chucked into a circuit last minute and you've got to rely on the setup you already had in your disposal, maybe make a few tweaks and changes, and it could be a circuit you're either good at or you're bad at. So it certainly does add to that attrition as well. But Josh, before we head off for the season, is there any final thoughts from you before we say goodbye to everybody at home?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure being here as always. Yeah, really enjoyed coming on here on the Monday evenings, and yeah, getting to see this incredible racing, which I think every single week we've come in maybe slightly pessimistic, thinking, oh, it's F1 25 racing, and then we've come out being really happy about how everything's played out. So yeah, really happy to have been here and to be able to see this great racing.
Yeah, and thank you as well, Josh, for being alongside me for a majority of the season as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to be alongside you here for season 23. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to round out this season and this evening's action. Of course, well done to Luca Rapasa on the PC Tier 2 title. I think has now become one of the only double PC Tier 2 champions, maybe even the only PC Tier 2 double champion. I am not too sure on that fact. But if you want to keep up to date on any of the World Online Racing news for potential Season 24, make sure you tune in to the Twitter. No, that's the wrong hand. Twitter. And they'll make sure to also join the Discord via a link in said Twitter, which will also give you the updates firsthand, and you can also potentially get involved into Season 24. Not sure when that is going to be, but do make sure you are in for what could be another magnificent season, either at the end of the F1 25 cycle or at the start of the F1 26 DLC. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be all from me and Josh here this evening. Thank you for joining us on what has been a very topsy-turvy season. We have seen it all. We've seen domination. We've seen photo finishes. We have seen drivers pushed to their very limits and drivers pushed to their mental limits as well on what strategy they can conjure up with. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. It's been a pleasure to bring this season to you, and we hope to see you back for season 24. As I say, make sure to keep in touch on Discord and on the socials for any updates regarding that next season. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. We shall see you next season. Thank you, and bye-bye.